Listen to simple things. Not long ago, I went through a very bad period in my life, something many of us may have experienced. Everything became dull and monotonous for me. My health declined. The fire of enthusiasm and energy had gone out. It affected my life and work terribly. Each morning I would grit my teeth and tell myself, today life will go on in its same old rut. I must get through it. I must do it. But the boring days kept dragging on, and that feeling of paralysis and helplessness seemed to get worse. It reached the point where I knew I needed help. So I went to see a doctor. He was older than me and looked rather gruff. However, I did not expect that behind that unfriendly appearance there was a very wise and experienced man. I told the doctor, in a distressed way, that I seemed to be stuck. "Can you help me?" I asked. "I don't know," he answered slowly, then leaned on his hand and stared at me for a long while. Suddenly he asked, "When you were a child, what place did you like best?" "As a child," I repeated. "Why do you ask?" "I think the beach. My family had a holiday house by the sea. We all loved it." The doctor looked out the window, watched a few autumn leaves fall, then asked, "Can you do exactly as I tell you for a whole day?" "I think so," I answered eagerly. "All right, I want you to do this." Following the doctor's instructions, the next day I drove alone to the beach and was not to arrive later than 9 a.m. I could have lunch, but I was not to read, write, listen to the radio, or talk to anyone. Also, he said, "I will give you a prescription. Take 1 dose every 3 hours." He tore 4 pieces of blank paper, wrote a few words on each, folded them, numbered them, and handed them to me. "Take these doses at 9 a.m., 12 noon, 3 p.m., and 6 p.m., in that order." "Are you serious?" I asked in astonishment. The doctor laughed. "You won't think I'm joking when I take your consultation fee." The next morning, with a small faith in the doctor's remedy, I drove to the beach alone as he had instructed. A northeast wind was blowing. The sea looked grey and the waves crashed angrily. I sat in the car facing a long empty day. I opened the first piece of paper. It read, "Listen attentively." I couldn't understand it. The doctor must be crazy. He had forbidden me to listen to music, read, or speak to others. What else was there to listen to? Still, I decided to follow his advice. I lifted my head and listened. There was no sound except the steady wash of the waves, the clacking cry of the seagulls, and the distant hum of a few planes. These sounds were familiar. I got out of the car. A strong gust slammed the door behind me. I wondered, did the doctor mean I should pay attention to those sounds? I climbed a sand dune and looked out over the empty beach. From there, the roar of the sea was louder and drowned out the other noises. Suddenly, I thought there must be more sounds beneath the waves. The faint rustle of shifting sand, the whisper of the wind through the scrub on the dunes, if one listened carefully. Driven by that thought, I ran into the sea and dived under the water. Amused by my own behavior, I plunged into the seaweed. At that moment, I discovered that if you listen closely, you can hear moments when everything seems to pause and wait. In that quiet instant, all the thoughts in your head stop and your mind rests. I returned to the car and lay back in the driver's seat, still listening intently. When I heard again the deep roar from the ocean, I found myself thinking about the fury of the storms rising within the waves. Then I realized I was thinking about things much larger than myself, and that comforted me. Thus the morning passed slowly. My habit of throwing myself into some troubling problem had become so ingrained that I felt lost without it. By midday, the sky was clear and the sea sparkled. I opened the second piece of paper. Again, I felt half amused, half annoyed. The second dose read, "Try to recall your memories." What memories? Obviously pleasant ones from the past. But why should I do that when all my worries were about the present or future? I left the car and walked along the dunes. The doctor had led me back to the beach where so many happy childhood memories lived. That, I realized, was what he wanted me to find again, the joys and deep happiness I'd left behind. I decided to bring those fading moments back to life. I would color and sharpen the picture of my happiness. I would choose details and recreate them clearly. I would imagine what the people looked like and how they laughed. I would focus on the exact sound of their voices and laughter. The tide was going out, but the waves still pounded. I chose to return to the day of my last fishing trip with my younger brother 20 years earlier. He had been killed in World War II, but I realized that if I closed my eyes and tried, I could see him vividly, even the mischief and eagerness in his eyes. Actually, I saw the whole scene of that day, the glittering sea, the dawn appearing in the east, the slow majestic waves rolling ashore. I felt the warm backwash around my knees, my brother's rod suddenly jerk when a fish took the bait, and I heard his joyful shout. I painted that picture piece by piece, so clear that it had not changed after so many years. Then those images faded. I rose slowly, trying to find my past. Happy people are confident and decisive. If you deliberately go back and touch those happy things, won't you find some strength? The second phase of the day passed quickly. As the sun began to lean westward, my mind eagerly travelled through the past, reliving moments and rediscovering people I had completely forgotten. Over the years I had remembered many events, but had let past happiness be swept away by time. A warm feeling rose in me, and I understood that no act of kindness is wasted or loses its meaning. By 3 o'clock the tide had receded and the sound of the waves was only a whisper in rhythm. The sea was like a giant breathing. The dunes felt like my home. I felt relaxed, content, and a little proud. The doctor's doses were easy to take, but I was not ready for the third dose. This instruction was not gentle. It felt more like a command. Examine your motives. My immediate reaction was to justify myself. My motives aren't bad, I told myself. I want success. Who doesn't? I want recognition like others. I want to be loved and to be more secure. And why not? Perhaps a small voice somewhere in my head said those motives weren't entirely pure. Maybe that was why I was stuck. I bent down, took a handful of sand and let it slip through my fingers. In the past, what I did well came naturally, without calculation. Lately, everything was planned and calculated, but it hadn't gone well. Why? Because I had looked beyond the work itself and thought only of the rewards it might bring. Work had become merely a means to earn money. The feeling of giving, helping others, and contributing had been lost in the rush to gain personal advantage. Suddenly I realized this for certain. If a person's motives are not pure, the results will be poor. Whether you are a postman, a barber, an insurance salesman, a father at home, or a housewife, it doesn't matter. Only when you feel you are serving others do you do your job well. If you only worry about what you will get, your effectiveness declines. That is a natural law of life. I sat for a long time. Out at the river mouth I heard the waves change from a whisper to a roar as the tide came in. Behind me the last rays of sunlight were almost gone over the horizon. My day at the sea was nearly over. I felt admiration, almost envy, for the doctor and his strange, unexpectedly simple doses. Now I saw they were valuable for anyone facing any difficulty. Listen attentively. To calm and soothe a troubled mind, shift your focus from the inside outward. Try to recall the past, because the human mind can hold only one thought at a time. Turn away present anxieties by focusing on past happiness. Examine your motives. This is the core of the cure. Reassess and measure your motives against your ability and conscience, and you must be sincere when you do this. The western sun had turned a brilliant red as I took out the final piece of paper. After reading the line on it, I walked slowly toward the sea. When I was just a few meters from the water's edge, I stopped and read the words again. Write your worries on the sand. I let the paper fly away, bent down, picked up a broken seashell, and under that high sky, I wrote many of my worries on the sand, one after another. Then I turned and walked away without looking back. I had written my worries on the sand, and out there the waves were coming in.
That is the end of today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And now, goodbye and see you in the next video. Have a great and joyful day.